Good evening and welcome to Generation Movie on a Monday night. Welcome. My name is JW Colwell. I'm joined as always by my good friend and my partner in crime on this jaunt through movie history, Rich Drees. How are you, Rich Drees? Okay. Say that all again.
Good evening, everybody. I'm doing great. Thank you for asking there, sir. I don't know why my mic went mute. It opened up when the video ended, and then man, I wasn't touching that.
It's like magic.
I know.
Hello. Let's see what we got. Hi, Joe. Hi, Daisy. Good talk. Hello again. Good evening, gentlemen. Happy 420 to those who celebrate. Okay.
I forgot to check it out. So the first trailer for Super Troopers 3 dropped at 4:20 Eastern Standard Time today.
A very deserving franchise. Although I like their slasher movie too.
Oh,
they're fun. What is it?
Yeah.
Club Dread.
Club Dread, yes. That's good. I enjoyed
I think they're funny.
The restaurant one.
The restaurant, the Slam and Salmon.
Slam and Salmon was pretty good.
And also Beer Fest.
Beer Fest is fun. I was a little disappointed with Super Troopers 2 and the Hunchback of Notre Dame parody that they did for Hulu. I was disappointed with. That just didn't work for me.
Well, you've given me all this research before in the green room. You gave me all this research and stuff I have to look into and see if we can make your wildest movie month dreams come true. We'll be working on that tonight. We have a banger though. Like tonight, I can't believe it's a movie we haven't done yet. I mean, we're gonna get there, but like tonight we're doing the Ripley episode, the Alien episode. Widely regarded as one of the greatest, if not the greatest, sci-fi horror film ever made.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get to it. And then next week we will be doing the day after. Wait, where's my banner? Hold on, I got my banner. Hold on.
Nag me for you. Come on, buddy.
Happy early Alien Day, LV426, or Acheron if you are a big nerd. Welcome. But we're doing Alien for Alien Day this year. And then next week we are doing, of course, we're doing Aliens, the sequel that took a little bit under the amount of time we said for legacy sequels, but an eternity in the 80s sequels, right? I mean, 7 years between an 80s sequel, a 79 sequel, and an 86. 7 years is like a lifetime, right? I mean, okay. News. First off, you had a very busy weekend. I'm going to put up pictures of you and your mug. I stole them. Look at you, Philadelphia Film Society.
Yeah, this is
what is happening
this
here.
Is me. Okay. Philadelphia Film Society had their annual Spring Fest, which is about a 5-6 day festival of new upcoming smaller indie films. One of those films was Over Your Dead Body, a very dark comedy starring Jason Segel and Samara Weaving. And the director, Jorma Taccone, was there to do a Q&A. I got to meet and chat with him for a moment or two afterwards. Jorma is part of The Lonely Island, so he's one of the brains behind things like We're on a Boat, Dick in a Box, and a lot of other things. He also co-directed Pop Star, Never Stop, Never Stopping, with his other Lonely Island compatriots, Akiva Schaffer and Andy Samberg. Very funny guy, very nice guy. We actually kind of talked a little bit about short filmmaking. So it was a nice, quick conversation. And then
next picture, we're moving on.
But before we go there, because that was actually in the morning. The second film at Springfest I saw was also a new Samara Weaving film coming up called Carolina Caroline. It was directed by the same guy who did Strange Darling from 2 years ago, which I really liked.
My ears perked up when you say Strange Darling. That's a great movie. Fantastic movie. It's
coming out in June. I saw it at a film festival, so I can talk about it. I'm not under any kind of embargo. I will say I didn't like it as much as I liked Strange Darling. There's some really good performances there from Samara Weaving and the other lead.
What's it about?
It's Samara Weaving
free. Spoiler free. What's it about?
Samara Weaving plays a young woman in a small town who meets a traveling con man. This is like set in the early 90s. And she kind of gets infatuated with this guy, and she wants to kind of like drive around the country with him, pulling small time cons on her way from Texas, where she lives, to South Carolina, where her mother, who abandoned her at a very early age, now lives. And
okay, so it's like a traveling comedy. Is it a comedy? Is it a comedy, or is it like The Grifters?
It's a little Bonnie and Clyde-ish.
Okay, that's fine.
It is one of the notes I actually made in my notebook as I was watching it. Excuse me. Like I said, I didn't like it as much as I like Strange Darling. Two good performances from the leads. I don't necessarily buy their chemistry together, but I still think they're performing their parts very well. And it was very interesting because this was a very different role and a very different type of performance from Samara Weaving than what I had just seen, like a half an hour earlier in Over Your Dead Body. So
how was that?
I just walked away from that afternoon going, I'm sorry?
It looks super dark. Is it too dark, or is it just dark enough?
Just dark enough. enough. I walked away from the afternoon thinking, I really am impressed with Samara Weaving. I just want to see her keep doing stuff now.
Yeah, she's become a really good young actress.
Yeah, I'd like to see her maybe break out of some of the genre-y stuff that she's doing and, go to, full dramas and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
This was Saturday morning before I even got downtown for Springfest. I was in the Philly suburbs of Ambler, Pennsylvania, at their beautiful Ambler theater, which I didn't put any pictures up online, but I have a couple, here on my phone, and I think I shot a little bit of video. Their place is just decorated with old movie posters and old projectors and old camera equipment. There's a whole gallery where I guess they do meet and greets or fundraisers and stuff like that. That's just like these 100-year-old cameras, 100-year-old projectors. It's absolutely beautiful. But this past weekend, Ambler was doing a 35 millimeter fest, showing a bunch of different classic films on actual. Let me say this. This is the only time I've ever been to any festival ever where they not only before the film starts tell you who's the projectionist, But then the projectionist gets a round of applause before the movie even starts.
I love that.
I was
That's
just like, oh fuck yeah, okay, I'll clap for anybody.
Clap for like an actual trained projectionist. Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
oh my god. And I don't know if he was working off a platter or if he was working off of two projectors and flipping at the real changes, but it was seamless, absolutely seamless. And I've seen, other places that project off of two projectors where you can sometimes catch them with the real change. But these guys are great.
Who's the picture with, Rich?
The movie was introduced by, first of all, the movie was 1932 pre-code melodrama called Merrily We Go to Hell, which deals with infidelity, alcoholism, briefly an open marriage, and it's a great film. I'd seen it once or twice before, hadn't seen it in years, and it was introduced by Alicia Malone, who you see here in the picture with me, from Turner Classic Movies. She does a lot of she's like one of the hosts alongside Ben Mankiewicz and
she's a good host.
Dave Karger and the others. And she's written a couple of books on like the history of film, the history of women in film, the female gaze, certain things like that. So this film was very much in her wheelhouse. She was there. They had one of the people who write Turner Classic Movie intros also there, introducing a couple of the films. I got to talk to her briefly after the film as well. The movie Merrily We Go to Hell was based on a book, and which I've never read. But she said, and she asked me if I had that. I go, no. She goes, oh my gosh, the ending is so different. I go, oh, really? How? And turns out, the movie has a happy ending, even though the female lead, played by the lovely and wonderful Sylvia Sidney, who we all know now as the old lady who smokes through her tray in Beetlejuice. But, she had a great career in the 30s and 40s, all the way up to the early 50s when she was in Kiss Me Deadly. But turns out like her character,
What's in the box? You said Kiss Me Deadly. I mean, what's in the box? It's the immortal question. That is a question from Kiss Me Deadly, Pulp Fiction, and Seven.
But the original book that the movie was based on, it has a much darker ending. Okay, the movie ends with like, okay, she loses the baby she was pregnant with, but he comes back and he apologizes, and it seems like they're going to fix their marriage and go on and have a happy life. The book, she loses the baby, he comes back, he doesn't come back, she dies, he continues drinking, and within a year he has entirely forgotten all of that. Everything that happened in the book.
Nice.
Learning nothing. I was like,
clutch.
Wow.
Clutch. If you're going to drink, you got to drink properly, Rich.
That's a dark ending. I mean,
that's
you're asking
terrible.
me about these other movies. These other movies are like Teletubbies compared to how this book ended for me. I was like, yikes.
It was also, a little bit of news over the weekend. It was also Superman Day on Saturday, but the big news was this morning. They're starting this little movie they're starting to film, and they put out a logo, and it's I'd be remiss not to bring up the logo and how cool the fucking logo is, Rich.
Yeah, baby.
How fucking grand the logo is. Okay, so what we're looking at here is a clapboard that from the first day of shooting on Superman Man of Tomorrow, which
electronic clapperboard that's just sitting on its back.
Yeah, but the key here is in the center. And again, I'm not expecting everybody to be the biggest Superman fans, but if you are a Superman fan, you'll notice the Superman logo is there. And then very inconspicuously surrounding the Superman logo are three dots. 3 dots, Rich, and those 3 dots signify the coming of a villain that has been in comic books and been in Superman lore forever. And it's been attempted a couple times on like television, but it has never been put on the big screen. It was attempted. There was an attempt when they were doing the Nicolas Cage, Tim Burton Superman. There were all kinds of things about him, but Brainiac is coming. And apparently...
Let me ask you a question. Do you know how long it's been since we've had a Superman film where the villain was neither Lex Luthor nor Zod?
I would assume it would go back to the serials. Right? Like the Superman serial. Because, like, think about, well, I mean, Superman 3.
Yes.
Superman 3.
Well, first of all, don't blame you for forgetting Superman 3.
Well, no, but technically, actually, the funny thing there is, like, if you say Superman 3, the interesting thing there is the computer that the Richard Pryor character uses was originally, in the original script, was supposed to be Brainiac. Right? So, like,
but it's not in the final film, so
it's not in the final film.
48 years.
It's just a terrible, scary old lady who's very curmudgeonly, and then she gets turned into a robot weird, and it just goes crazy. But yeah, so that's the big Superman news of the day.
But also, it's kind of frightening. 48 years since Superman 3.
45 years. It was 83. 42 years.
45.
42.
Okay.
43. We're bad at math. We're good at movies. We're bad at math.
Movies, bad at math.
Good at movies. Also, if you like what you're hearing from us, good at movies, bad at math, Rich Drees and JW Colwell Monday nights. Generation Movie, we air every Monday night. We do it at 9 o'clock on Monday nights. We also have some great people on our network. We have Gabe, who does Symbolistic Cynicism. He recently had Charles Edwin Powell, who was in all these great movies, including Exorcist 3. He just found out about all the controversy about Exorcist 3 because he was one of the people that played Jason Miller, who was like Peter Blatty didn't want him in the movie. Like, just an incredible show with interesting stories. We also do Loud Nerdy on Tuesday nights. Me and a couple other guys, Joe Ridley, Jerry Kimura of the band Slapjaw, and occasionally Raven, who's delightfully difficult. And then the guys have the show Untrained and Unscripted with Ryan West and Joe Ridley, Thursdays bi-weekly. But I have it on good authority that show is going to go back to its original moniker, which has some sway in the podcasting community, called Technical Defects. Or if you don't like the blue, purple, he was just thinking around with it today. I also have the yellow. So all those shows are available. Like and subscribe down bottom. It would help us out. We're on all these places: Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, Twitter, or X, or whatever the fuck he's calling it today, IMDb, all those places. And we do our little show. So box office, another story, box office this weekend. Numbers were fine. Like this numbers were okay. 46% drop for Super Mario Galaxy to 36 million. So it's only at $356 million. I mean, pshaw. But the other thing about this is Super Mario Galaxy and Project Hail Mary are making so much money that they're not allowing other movies to open, which is an interesting phenomenon, right? We have two movies that are absolutely dominating the marketplace, because this weekend also Project Hail Mary grossed 20 million, so it's only 16 million off of Mario Galaxy. It's been in release 31 days. So that's impressive. It's only a 15% drop from last week. Project Hail Mary is like the little engine that could. Now, it doesn't have as much money as Super Mario Galaxy, but it has, the kids in the business would call legs. My dad would call legs, would say legs.
Yams.
Yams. Yeah, they have dams. Also opening this weekend, we're going to talk about it on Loud Nerdy tomorrow night, but I did a review on Friday. This movie here, Lee Cronin's The Mummy. You may ask yourself, Rich, who is Lee Cronin? And I would say he is a guy that has directed an Evil Dead movie, but that is not the reason his name is above the title. He is not John Carpenter either, which is also not the reason his name is above the title. But it is the idea that Blumhouse and Atomic Monster had him put his name above the title so that they could kind of like the Mummy's in
Separate
the Mummy,
itself from.
Yeah, it's deciphered from other Mummy movies. That being said, Rich, it's the least Mummy movie you're ever going to see. It's got more in common with Evil Dead and The Exorcist than it does with, Brendan Fraser's Mummy, Tom Cruise's Mummy, or even Boris Karloff's Mummy. And it's gory. It's gory as hell. I went with Jerry, actually. We had such a good time. We had dinner, we broke bread, and then we went to see the movie with him and his family. And it's gory and creepy and fun. But what I would say to you is the problem I had with it as a horror movie fan, there gets to a point where the family is just letting this kid stay with them. And there's clearly something wrong with her. And so the parents decide, yeah, she's going to stay. But they have 2 kids. They have 2 other kids, Rich, and a grandmother living with them. And they're like, we should let her stay.
The whole family.
Well, it reminded me very much. There was an old Eddie Murphy.
Yes.
An old Eddie Murphy.
Lovely house, baby.
No, it's a lovely house. The kids are playing out in the front yard. The chandelier is beautiful. Get out of the house. Too bad we can't stay. Right? And so basically these people just allow this kind of thing to just fester. And so I had a problem with kind of like with getting over that. Does that make sense? Like if you're sitting there in the audience watching a horror movie and people are acting so dumb that the audience is going, wow, that's fucking dumb. Now, it's creative. I mean, and
I dare say it is a trope that some horror movies have to have some people. I don't want to say it's quite, an idiot plot where you have to be an idiot for the plot to keep going.
Making bad decisions. No, I agree with that. We need people making bad decisions, but there's a fine line between we have 2 kids and a grandma living with us, and little Katie is floating 5 feet above the bed. There's a very small. Yeah. Very small distinction, little Katie punched her grandmother in the face, But like I said, I think Lee Cronin's good. They made the announcement today. He's got 2 things going. So he's kind of like, he's working on something called Spiral. Lee Cronin's working on something called Spiral, which is like Irish folklore tales. That is one of the interesting things about the Lee Cronin's Mummy. It is not a traditional mummy. It is a folklore kind of a story, an Egyptian folklore story. So I did like that a lot. I'm not going to lie. I like that. In the last half hour's like 2026 horror movie batshit crazy, which is fine. Everything gets stuck to the wall, including people. But he's also working on, he has another movie coming out. I think it's called Bag of Bones. And then the dropper today was that he made mention that one of the things floating around by his plate in Hollywood is that he has floated the idea that, now that he's made an Evil Dead movie and he's made a Mummy movie, he has floated the idea that he would like his shot at Freddy Krueger. And this is a really good young horror movie director. And if it wasn't going to be Zach Kreger, I would say Lee Cronin taking a shot at Freddy would be fine. We haven't had a Freddy movie in almost 20 years.
Oh my God.
And the last Freddy movie it was okay, but it wasn't good. And anyway, so some comments. Let's see what people are saying. Good evening, friends.
Hey, good evening, Ken. Hope all is well with you, sir.
Greetings, gentlemen. Watch you guys while I watch my Cavs take Game 2, ADHD for the win. Good luck for the Cavs until they get to the Knicks. The crew brought over the slate for the last summer movie to show my daughter. I told how she got to see it before most of the population. With the slate that we just showed?
No, I think he means from the last Superman movie. Pay attention.
I can't read. I'm not good at math or reading apparently. Hey everyone. Hey Terry.
Hey Terry.
We're indecisive as fuck. Yes, we are, but we're not. Also indecisive.
The new movie I did see this weekend did terrible at the box office, and I was disappointed.
Normal?
No, it was only on 416 screens, but Lorne, the documentary about Lorne Michaels, just tanked at the box office, which is a shame. If you're a Saturday Night Live fan, okay, well, first of all, the movie doesn't kind of dig into who he is. And I think even though Michaels decided, yeah, you can make a documentary about me, he was very standoffish, it feels, through most of the process. So you don't really get a good overview of who this guy is outside of what a lot of things people already know. But the filmmakers were given some crazy amount of access. They shot like through 11 different show weeks over a couple of years. And so you're seeing stuff you've only ever read about, like the meeting that they hold between the dress rehearsal and the final air show in that like space of an hour, where they basically go, okay, these are the sketches that are actually going to make it to air. Which is, it's part of that whole process.
I feel like it's very niche, though. I feel like even if like
it is,
yeah, but I feel like it's for us. You know what I mean? We both love Saturday Night Live.
Well, you know how on SNL they say, don't break, it's unprofessional. We don't want to become the Carol Burnett show. But yet you still have people like Horatio Sands breaking, every fucking sketch.
Gosling.
Lorne apparently hates when people break in sketch, and they were lucky enough to be with him under the bleachers on the live show for Ryan Gosling when they did the Beavis and Butthead sketch. And it was fantastic to watch him just get as upset as you probably will ever see him, which isn't that much, but just to watch him reacting to the whole thing with Heidi Gardner starting to laugh and break and all of that happening. And he was just like, yeah. Well, it was like, that's the moment I'm glad this movie exists.
Well, like, I'm sure, like, it looks great, and I just, it's one of those movies that, like, if they streamed it tomorrow, everybody as a fan would watch it. Like, getting getting to a theater to see it, depending on how busy you are, that's a tough sell. You know what I mean?
True.
But it did fine for it. It didn't do good. But a lot of it, like I said, the interesting thing about the box office is right now you have three movies that are taking up a lot of air. The drama also only dropped 44% this week. That movie's at 39 million. That movie cost nothing to make, Rich. That movie cost nothing, and it's doing well. It gives us hope that we're going to get more kind of mid-range comedy
dramas and comedies.
Yeah,
that's why I'm hoping something like Super Troopers 3 does well. I mean they have their core fan base, but I think with Disney kind of putting their back into it a little bit through Searchlight, maybe it'll get some people out to see it, and keep that ball rolling for the mid-range 20 to $50 million film. Get those out there, man. Those used to be the backbone of the industry, not the big blockbusters, but movies that didn't cost that much, but still a lot of people came out, still turned over a nice little tidy profit to keep going in case you had a blockbuster that just bit the bullet or something.
So I have interesting stories as we progress through tonight, and we get to our movie of the night, which is Alien, this movie right here. So when I was 5, story time, Rich. When I was 5, my dad got a day off and took me and my mother to see Alien in 70 millimeter. I was 5. There were 3 seats left in the theater, Rich. Two in the second row and 1 in the front row, and I got put in the front row. I have never been to the bathroom more in my life. But one of the things that doing this movie tonight, rewatching it and everything, I tracked down the theater I was in.
Ooh. Yes, you sent me that article.
I sent, yeah. So what I found out was okay, so we're gonna get into it. It'll be part of the box office segment, but let's talk about production. Alien is widely regarded as one of the greatest science fiction horror films of all time, if not the greatest science fiction horror film. And where it released, it came out on the heels of Jaws and Star Wars and Halloween. And so it was like, it's right on the cusp of like that original wave of ultra classic for our generation, right? So we grew up with it. I was 5. I saw it. We're going to talk about that theater, and one of the things I tracked down about this ridiculous kind of how this movie opened. But production was a mess, Rich. And I was like, I like messy. I didn't know it was quite this messy, right? So the screenplay is credited solely to Dan O Bannon. Of course, Dan O Bannon was somebody we talked about when we did Dark Star. Which was the John Carpenter movie we did last year.
Which is very much the progenitor of this film.
Yes, it's very much a progenitor. And then he was also working with Ronald Shusett right around the time. And Ronald Shusett was also, while they were all kind of working together, living in the same house, sleeping on the same couches, Ronald Shusett was working on what would later become Total Recall in 1990. Fuck, I'm off tonight. But O'Bannon had written 29 pages of a movie that he had titled Memory. And basically it's about a bunch of astronauts awake and find their voyage has been interrupted. They're receiving a signal from a mysterious planet. So basically the opening 45 minutes of Alien. And then O'Bannon and Shusett get called. They're going to go work on Jodorowsky's Dune. He leaves. And that takes 6 months out of his life. So the movie's gestating, moving, doing all these things. But while he's there, he meets all these people that are on Jodorowsky's Dune that never gets produced. Jodorowsky, I'm sorry. Again, not math or no reading. But he meets Chris Foss, he meets H.R. Giger, he meets Moebius. And so, again, Moebius.
I'm sorry, I feel really bad here.
You're killing me, man. You're killing me. You're hurting. He meets all these people on there, and then they start working on different things. Shusett basically comes to him and says, I also have a script I'm working on. It's about a bunch of gremlins that invade a B-17 bomber during World War II. And maybe we can mix put your peanut butter in my chocolate and your chocolate in my peanut butter. And so they come up with Alien, right? And one of the things that's interesting about this is they call it Alien because of the sheer number of the times Alien is mentioned in the script. And O'Bannon realizes that the movie is a little bit The Thing, a little bit Forbidden Planet, a little bit Planet of the Vampires. All these different things, all these influences are coming into his movie. He goes to studios. They pitch it to Roger Corman first as Jaws in Space. And as they're going to sign a deal with Roger Corman, they get a call and they say, don't do it. Sign with us. They sign with a company called Brandywine, who will become the producers for a lot of the Alien films. Gordon Carroll, David Giller, and Walter Hill, right? So they sign the deal with Brandywine. The movie goes into production. But Hill and Giller, even though they've never really worked with science fiction, start rewriting the script. So O'Bannon and Walter Hill and David Giller are having fights about, you're rewriting my science fiction horror script, and you've never made a science fiction horror film in your life. What is happening? Right? And so it becomes this little battle, and they but the interesting thing is, even though they have all this trouble with it, and the Writers Guild eventually awards O'Bannon sole credit for the screenplay, Giller and Walter Hill come up with the Ash idea. The idea that one of the crew is actually an android who's out to get the crew and help the alien, is an idea that O'Bannon never had in his script. And at the time, during one of the rewrites, took it to Shusett and said, look what they did to my script. They have this stupid android in the middle. And Shusett said, yeah, it's dumb, but it kind of works. It kind of works.
I dare say I'm surprised that, putting an element like that into a script, which, I feel significantly impacts things, including, well,
it's a bigger third act reveal than the monster. It becomes in this movie.
I'm just surprised that they didn't split the writing credit based on that, because the theme about how the company hates, the company will casually disregard these people's lives. It brings up the question of what is humanity.
I don't know, but again, I think for the most, I'd love to do a deep dive at some point on that. What the Writers Guild considers, an idea or something that comes to fruition in a script. But I was reading this today, going, I had never heard of it. Right, I never heard the concept that the whole subplot, and this is what was said later. Shusett later described as one of the best things in the movie. That whole idea and scenario was theirs. Hill and Giller went through 8 drafts of the script in total, and they focused solely on the Ash subplot, which is more like an action movie than it is, you know what I mean? Than it is an alien sci-fi movie, right? And then they worked on fixing some of the sequences with the downed ship, right? The space jockey ship. So the final shooting script at the time was credited to Hill and Giller, but like I said, Geiler, whatever. I feel like I'm fucking every name up now.
No,
but O'Bannon got O'Bannon sole credit for the script. O'Bannon was originally slated to direct the film, but 20th Century Fox immediately asked Walter Hill to do it. He said no because of other film commitments, and also with him being not comfortable with visual effects in any way. They then approached, here, listen to this list, Rich. Tell me which one you want, which alien movie you want to see. Peter Yates, John Borman, Jack Clayton, Robert Aldrich, and Robert Altman were all considered for this. And
Altman would do the 2 dinner sequences really well, and I don't know what his everything else would be.
Well, and the funny thing there is, like you said, it'd be incredible for some of the sequences, and then I don't know what would happen. And O'Bannon and Shusett and Brandywine at the time, that entire production team, felt that those guys would not take the film seriously, would consider it a B movie, like they were slumming, right? They also at some point asked Steven Spielberg to take a look at it, but he took a look, but he was working on something else, Rich. We could have had Steven Spielberg directing Alien, but he was too busy with 1941, Rich. Which, that's crazy. That's movie history.
Apologies to Eddie Deason. I'm so sorry. I don't know why we wound up with 1941.
Yes. But anyway, he passed. They then, all the people, Brandywine, Geiler, Hill, Carroll, they had seen Ridley Scott's The Duelists, which is a great movie. and they made an offer to him, and Ridley Scott said yes immediately. When he went to the meeting with Fox and Brandywine, he had storyboards already created. Fox was so impressed with the storyboards, they doubled the film's budget. All the storyboards include designs for the ship, the suits, that basically the way he described it to Fox that got under Fox's skin was the spaceships and the suits and everything are a combination of 2001 and Star Wars. Although when Ridley Scott talked to them, he kept on saying, though, just so we're clear, though, this is clearly a horror movie in space. This is not 2001, and it is not Star Wars. It's a haunted house. It's a haunted house movie. And then what he used, he goes, it's Halloween or Texas Chainsaw Massacre in space with a big creature. And I'm just like, all I can think of is the player when people come up with interesting things. The casting for this film was crazy. They had a lot of people lined up. Tom Skerritt was given the script, but then he kind of turned it down because he thought it was going to become a low budget kind of bad movie. And once the budget doubled and Ridley Scott got on board, he accepted the role. The last person cast in the movie was Sigourney Weaver, who was doing her auditions while they were building the sets in London, and also as the youngest person on the movie, she had a tough time integrating with the older cast members. She her and Veronica Cartwright, the only females. Veronica Cartwright's about 3 years older than her. Sigourney Weaver was 28 at the time, a Broadway regular who had come in and basically was working with all these older actors like Harry Dean Stanton and Yaphet Kotto. Harry Dean Stanton, in his audition, said, I don't want this role because I feel like it's going to be a B-movie horror film, and I'm not into monsters or sci-fi. And Ridley Scott talked him into it by saying, it's not a B-movie monster movie. It's about a bunch of people who are struggling to do their jobs in the face of a giant monster. Mm-hmm. And Harry Dean Stanton said, okay, I'll do it, which is ridiculous. And one of the things that comes across in the casting is that they are clearly, like, the casting is a wide swath of the American, like, workforce, right? We have an African American, we have two older white men, we have two older British guys, we have Veronica Cartwright, an older American woman, and Sigourney Weaver as an older woman or a younger woman, right? Kind of a young go-getter in her role, and it makes the movie better if you watch it as a commentary on workforce dynamics and human resources, which you had Wayland Yutani human resources up earlier. It really makes the film better. And I will say, I thought it was really interesting. Sigourney, one of the things that came up with the casting during the casting, Alan Ladd, who was the person responsible for Star Wars, he came into one of the meetings with the casting happening. And basically he said, the way I read this script is these roles can be played by anybody. And O'Bannon, who had originally envisioned Ripley as a man, said, you know what, you're right. And once they changed the casting call to reflect that any of these people can play any of these roles, which is kind of fun when you think about it, right? Ripley was originally going to be a man, but then Sigourney Weaver knocked it out of the park. It also, you and I have had long discussions about this offline, but I will bring it up tonight. I'm also fascinated by this particular thing, that any role can be played by any of the characters in the movie, can be played by any sex, male or female, as one of the first indications that Alien in 1979 was woke.
Oh no, the horror.
Oh, I said it. Oh no. But I think that's like the indicate, like, it's so interesting that it's a unisex movie. The only downside of Sigourney Weaver getting cast was that Veronica Cartwright thought she was going to play Ripley until Sigourney Weaver walked through the door. And the rest, as they say, is film history, right? 14 weeks of filming, July 5th to October 21st, 1978. All the shooting took place at Pinewood and Shepperton. Some was done at Bray Studios in Berkshire. It had a very low budget, Rich. You realize when you look, like, first off, the movie looks great, right? But the budget on this movie is 8.4. And again, this is a widely debated topic. It's anywhere from $8.4 million to $14 million. I've heard 11. I've heard 10. I've heard 12.
How much did it make?
It doesn't matter. It made way more than that.
Exactly.
The filming, like, but they had 200 craftspeople. They had all these things. You know, they had the derelict spacecraft. They had the Nostromo. And one of the things you can tell, and this is a first that I didn't realize until today, all the visuals on the computer screens and every one of the Nostromo scenes are CGI. And basically they came up with
computer generated, not
computer generated imagery.
Yeah.
Because actually building all of those computers to actually work or put up things on the screen that they wanted, it was easier to do it that way.
Yeah. It's all early, very early. We would call it CGI now. It wasn't, I don't think the term was in use back then.
No.
Just computer graphics.
Yes.
Actual computer graphics, not animated to look like computer graphics that you do see in some movies.
And then, Rich, last thing in production, we had a music fight. Never thought I'd say that on our show, but we had a music fight. Jerry Goldsmith got into it with the editor of the film, and the editor of the film was Terry Rawlings. And when they're doing the post-production, they're editing the movie together, they had a patchwork score that wasn't Jerry Goldsmith's final score for the movie. And so as Ridley Scott and Rawlings are editing the movie, they had a patchwork score to work with. And they started queuing things up based on the music they had with them. And one day, Jerry Goldsmith walks into the booth and says, "That's not the music for that scene." And Terry Rawlings was like, "Yeah, this is the music we've been working with." And so there was a bit of a fight, but it ends up that Goldsmith keeps the music where he's going to keep it. Scott and Rawlings keep this cues and rescored several sequences to match the cues. And then Goldsmith got pissed about it, and you could see that I was sort of like going at the opposite ends of the pole with the filmmakers during this movie. It is a very good score, though, full of dark beauty. But the fact that they got Jerry Goldsmith angry with them, I've never heard a bad word said about Jerry Goldsmith or that he has said a bad word to anyone. And these two guys had Jerry Goldsmith mad at them. I mean, so I never knew. We had script fights. We had all kinds of fights. I was fascinated by that. Another source of production that has to be talked about is they eventually bring H.R. Giger on to build the alien, right? They basically create a life form and have him create the 3 stages of the life form. And it becomes the stuff of legend, even though at the time Fox thought his shit was way too dark. Fox was desperately trying to get them to not use his stuff. And I was looking through, it's fascinating how much, how much is just Giger's work and him taking the work and kind of extrapolating it out.
And if anybody's ever interested in Giger's design work, especially for this film, but everything else he's done, everything from like the album cover to Emerson Lake and Palmer's Brain Salad Surgery to the controversial piece of art that was slipped into a Dead Kennedys album called Penis Landscape, to his work developing concept art for Jodorowsky's Dune, which wound up, not happening. There is a museum in his home country of Switzerland dedicated to his work. And I understand that his alien stuff is represented there, as well as a lot of other things. So
the key piece of art is something
if you
called
just find yourself in the neighborhood in Switzerland, and you're tired of chocolate and cuckoo clocks, pop in.
Necronom 4 is the name of the artwork where the alien was truly born. And then last bit of fun filming facts. There's a sequence called the Chestburster sequence.
Yeah.
It is one of the most incredible sequences ever put on film. It is also incredible because nobody knew it was happening. They had an idea. They played with the puppet. They had an idea of how things were going to work. But they added blood and everything. And this picture here is not an actor giving you a great picture. It's an actor who had no idea what the fuck was going to happen. And I find it fascinating because they played with this little guy right here. That's the little chestburster guy. They played with him on set and they were like, oh, this is cute. How's it going to work? It's going to come up through the table. It's going to go through John Hurt. But there are stories. There are incredible stories of when, the actual surprise, the intense sense of realistic blood and everything that happened, creating one of the greatest moments in film history. So intense was the scene. Veronica Cartwright gets hit right in the fucking face. She gets hit with the first big blood splotch out of the chest burster. And at that moment, Veronica Cartwright, the person, had a brief hysterical meltdown in real life. Tom Skerritt talked about the scene. What you saw on camera was the real response. She had no idea what the hell happened. All of a sudden, this thing just came up. The creature then runs off camera. An effect accomplished by cutting a slit in the table for the puppeteer to stick the stick through and run. Right, exactly like Spaceballs, right? And it just, but Veronica Cartwright, if you watch the scene, Rich, they are so not ready. And in many ways, Rich, they are an audience stand-in at that point. The audience wasn't ready.
Now, I will admit that I think the idea of springing some shit on your actors to get an in-the-moment response can be seen as insulting to the actors. Like, you hired them to act. Let them act. Don't let them react to something they think is real, or don't scare them with a gunshot being fired off camera like you're freaking doing The Exorcist because you're a maniac.
I just found this fascinating. Again,
but at the same time, it's hard to argue with the results that we get here. So, as a director, I'm like, it looks really good, but I think it's really good.
I would never do that. I would never do that. But God, it looks. Yeah. And again, look at the face on the three actors, and like Harry Dean Stanton looks like, what the fuck am I doing here? Tom Skerritt's like, it didn't do that before. And Sigourney Weaver's like, oh my God, I've never seen anything like that. It's an amazing.
Also run the risk, I just realized this, of some a-hole like me who would just burst out laughing. Like, that's fucking hysterical. And just blowing the whole thing.
You realize, Rich, it was one take.
Yeah.
Like I had realized, I had thought about
They had
the
a couple
concept
cameras on it, but yeah.
with one take. It's one take. And again, the person you want to watch are any of the actors. Not you don't focus on the chest burster. That's not what you want to focus on. You're going to see him later. He's going to get bigger. He's going to be cool. He's going to grow up. The people you want to focus on in that scene, and I really did it today because of the research, watching those 6 people not know what's coming. And Veronica Cartwright, Rich, she gets a spray, like it goes, it's in her entire, like from the left side of her face is completely covered.
Mm-hmm.
Head to toe in spray blood. And it's just, it's one of the most endearing scenes of all time. In many ways, many people think that. So an incredible production history, an amazing story, and then the movie opens, and this is where I want to talk about some crazy shit, Rich. So a couple things happen. We talk a lot about how Star Wars is important, but in this particular case, it really was. One of the things I discovered in my research today, and it was research about, I know I saw the movie in a 70 millimeter theater. I know I saw it outside of Buffalo, New York, because we lived in West Seneca Falls, which was right outside of Buffalo. And so I had some ideas of what I was going to go looking for. I had no idea what I was going to find. So first off, it opened in 90 theaters across the United States, plus 1 in Canada. It set 51 house records, and it grossed $3.5 million over the Memorial Day weekend box office that year. It averaged almost $38,000 a screen, and it is widely regarded as one of the biggest per-screen averages in movie history. It was #1 film in the United States, where it remained there for 3 weeks. In its first 4 weeks, it grossed $16.5 million from only, Rich, $16.5 million from 148 prints.
Whew.
An incredible amount of money. And then what I found out today was, Rich, this was part of something that Fox had set up, and it's I go looking for it. I apparently saw this movie in a theater in Buffalo, New York, Cheektowaga, Buffalo, called The Holiday 2. I saw it on opening weekend. I know I saw it on opening weekend. I know I saw it in 70 millimeter. So all of the 91 original engagements of Alien were in the deluxe 70 millimeter wide gauge format. A record of large prints made for a single distribution launch. It was a launch that was basically set up by Fox as a special event. They had used a similar release pattern 2 years earlier with Star Wars. But for Alien, the company amplified the scale of the initial launch, increasing the number of initial engagements, using the 70 millimeter prints as ways to entice people in. And basically, at the time, they were fighting with exhibitors about, exhibitors said people don't care what you see a movie in. They just want to see a movie in theaters. And again, this proved the strategy wrong, because the 70 millimeter prints of this movie, Rich, outgrossed the 35 millimeter engagements. People were searching them out. And actually, I found this out. This is a strategy that Fox would later use for initial engagements for big movies and emphasizing presentation, with The Rose and also in 1979, Empire in 1980, Empire Strikes Back, Quest for Fire in 82, and Die Hard in 88, and Edward Scissorhands in 90. So this is a thing, this particular release strategy, Star Wars Alien, Star Wars Alien, The Rose, The Empire Strikes Back, Quest for Fire, Die Hard, Edward Scissorhands were the only Fox films to ever use this strategy. Incredible. And it was all because I went down a rabbit hole looking for the theater where it played that I saw it in.
And it paid off for every single one of those films. They all did very well.
Right. And also like, so then it again, this schedule is utterly incredible, right? It starts out, 91 screens. It then goes to 500 screens. It eventually gets to 1,750 theaters across the country, 6.9 weeks average per theater. Budget on the numbers is 10.7. So again, another weird budget number, anywhere from 8.4 to 14 million. And it ends up grossing $65 million in 1979 dollars, which equates out for inflation to $278.2 million, which is right around, to put it in perspective, Project Hail Mary just hit 285. So right in line. But I was amazed at this. I had read about it, but I had never like studied up on it, you know, and it was a rabbit hole I went down earlier today, Rich, that I thought you'd appreciate. Like the kind of weird rabbit hole that you and I go on our show, and how important this particular strategy was for this movie, right? This movie needed this particular strategy. You know what I mean? It needed, and I even got a poster for you to show you how cool this is. Super screen, 6-channel stereo audio.
This is right at the time that they were really trying to break out some new and interesting sound improvements. We had
this is Adobe. This is one of the first Adobe movies as well.
I remember like what the theatrical release of Battlestar Galactica and also the disaster film Earthquake had like a sense around sound thing where basically they boosted the bass up like a motherfucker.
It's incredible. It's an incredible.
Paramount was experimenting with it was called Vista Sound, because I'm thinking about writing an article on it, because it didn't get a whole, it was like Raiders of the Lost Ark, Dragon Slayer, and like one other movie they released in Vista Sound, which was like a number of speakers in the horizontal plane, and then one above you.
This is a good thing to get into. We might get into it later, because as you know, one of the stories of this week was that Disney, in an effort, instead of just moving their movie to 2 weeks before and solving the problem, they decided to come up with something called Infinity Vision, which is, and again, it is not, I want to say this for people who are out there thinking about it or talking about it. Infinity Vision is not like an IMAX or Adobe theater. It is a specification of a regular theater being boosted for a Disney movie. So it's like a specification thing, not an actual type of theater, before people get excited about it. Okay.
And the theater has to pay to Disney to use that Infinity Vision.
Right, and they have to meet their specs in every theater that they want to show it in.
It shrinks the margins that the theater have to make a profit just that much more. It's a shitty squeeze play on theaters, I think, actually, because I don't think
I think most theaters are going to be able to handle it. Most theaters will have one theater that they can attribute to Adobe Infinity Vision, but I just think it's much more of a, where it was organic with Alien with 70 millimeter and Adobe, it's inorganic with Doomsday, because it's not something they're doing to be good for the marketplace and to set out Doomsday from other movies. It's because they lost the IMAX screens, right? So it's in the 79 when Alien came out. This was the only way to see, like, you could see it in 35 millimeter, but if you were into it, like my dad took his 5-year-old to see it in 70 millimeter. That's just my dad being crazy. My niece is watching. Too cool. Thanks for joining us, Caitlin and Ridley. We appreciate
Hi,
you.
Uncle Joe's niece.
Did the recalled big alien action figure come from Alien or Aliens? Came from Alien. We're gonna get there.
Alien. Yeah, it was an 18-inch tall, I think it was, because it was a little taller than the ROM Space Knight figure. Because I wanted to get both of them to have them fight, and I got neither.
His nickname, by the way, is Big Chap. Is what it was called. And actually, I finally have a name to go along with that. Just we're getting out of production and into box office. But the name, by the way, was several people played the character, but Balaji Badiho, I believe his name is, 26-year-old design student, 6'10", almost 7 feet tall. When he was in the costume, he was 7 feet tall, over 7 feet. And then Eddie Powell and Roy Scammell also portrayed the alien in some scenes. Any scenes where the alien is descending or moving, that's a stuntman. But any scenes where the alien's just standing there, like this one, hold on. I have a Veronica Cartwright special for you. You got to find it, though. Give me a second. Where is my girl at? Where's my girl panicking? That right there is the dude. 7 feet tall. Yeah. So, by the way, Veronica Cartwright, I forgot the level of buzz she had for this performance. She won several accolades because this performance is unhinged. She for many years was always upset about the fact that she thought her character was a coward and she thought her character panicked and did cost people lives and everything. But someday, I guess at some point somebody said to her, maybe it was Ridley Scott, maybe it was Dan O Bannon, you're the audience. You're the audience surrogate. You're the person that is, holy fuck, that thing's jumping out of the guy's chest and I get sprayed with blood. Holy shit. You're the audience surrogate. Let's talk about, I was reading some places, critical response then and now, I was reading some places where they said it was not well received. And I was like, well, that's crazy. If you look on, we like to use Rotten Tomatoes just as an aggregate place. It's at 93% on the Tomato Meter with 209 reviews. Again, the more interesting reviews are the people who don't like it. I also, Rich, in preparation for this, it came up in my feed on sneak previews. Every once in a while in my feed, I get old sneak previews, and I got the one with Alien, and it was absolutely incredible. Cisco and Ebert talking about it. Also, the audience meter is 94, which gives you some idea. With over 250,000 people talking about it, this is one of those rare situations where the critics and the audiences are intertwined. And most of the bad reviews are very interesting. They're funny to me. Clearly people who are off put by the gore or off put by whatever. And they just, either they don't get it, Rich, or David Denby, famous critic, pretty good critic. Alien, like The Exorcist, works on your nerves and emotions with the practiced hand of a torturer extracting a confession. The movie is terrifying, but not in a way that is remotely enjoyable. I feel like you missed the thing here. Stanley Kaufman, New Republic. The plot as such is quickly tedious, not only because it's a stale ritual, but because it gets repeated several times. A 3-minute set of clips from the picture would make a good spine tingler.
No.
Yeah.
This movie is a slow boil. The chest burster scene doesn't happen until 55 minutes in. You need this. This is perfectly paced. And
yeah, it's an hour. It's an hour and 56 minutes. And what I would say is, the chest burster scene, when it everything is methodically paced, and it's so well paced that it may seem to you like it's a longer movie, but in reality it's not. It's moving. I was watching it today, right? And you're like, you get to a certain point, and you're like, oh my God, we're already like Dallas is about to die. Like we're already there, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're already.
One thing that really struck me was, I always appreciate that very slow pan at the beginning through the ship, that's basically empty because they're all in cryo sleep, and then the slow dissolves as they wake up, and then slowly, and it feels very dreamlike and ethereal, and we're slowly getting into a real world, and then it slides into a whole nightmare.
Do you know what that reminded me of? The ship shots remind me a little bit of Hitchcock, right? It's like the Psycho trailer. There's a great Psycho trailer. It's like 5 minutes long, and it's just Alfred Hitchcock walking through all the places in Psycho. Oh yeah, going, ooh, something bad's gonna happen here.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh. Oh, the stairs. I don't even want to talk about that. Like, and that's a little bit what the tracking shot reminded me of. It's just we're going through the ship when it's quiet, and we know that in an hour and 40 minutes, it's not going to be quiet anymore.
No.
And like I said, I think the performances are all stellar. Like everybody's really good. Yaphet Kotto and Harry Dean Stanton as like the everyman who are like bitching about their paychecks. We have worked with people like that every day. I could stay for a little bit longer this weekend, but I'm going to need to get paid. Right? I signed a contract. Shit, I didn't know. I forgot I signed a contract. You're right. I do have to go to that SOS. I also am enamored with, like, I know I've always been enamored with Sigourney Weaver, but it is for a 1979 female protagonist role. She becomes a person that survives the movie, but she is doing shit early in the movie where she's questioning men. She's all up in their business. Like she gets into a flat out fight with Tom Skerritt, who's just trying to walk away. And she closes the fucking door on him. Then she has another scene with like Ash where she's like, hey, you know that thing where you let the guy in with that creature on his face? And I told you not to open the fucking door and you did it? She's strong from the get-go. Like I remember that, but I also like watching it in practice. And she's so strong from the get-go as a character. She knows who she is. She is giving orders, talking to people like, well, we can't let him on the ship for 24 hours. Just open the door. We need to get him in the sick bay. No, I'm not going to do that. And then, as the movie progresses, you find out Ash is the android who's working for the company. And you look up and you're like, motherfucker, he opened the door. He let him in. Mm-hmm. God damn it. But that's great. The chest burster scene, everything you've heard about how great it is. It's a marvel of cinema filmmaking. It's intimate. You have these people sitting around a table breaking bread, and then John Hurt gets wrecked, and it's terrifying. And the set design is amazing. The visual effects are incredible. Like it is one of those movies where you go, does it stand the test of time? Yes. Does everything that you remember or seen live up to everything you remember or seeing? The answer is yes. It's just a great fucking movie. And I put up this, if you're looking for chronological order on things, you need to find this chart somewhere, but I put it up for everybody to get a quick screen grab and move on your way. The Ash android thing, I had no idea. I'd never, read about the idea that O Bannon didn't like the idea, and how that has become the sheer volume of things in this movie, Rich, that have become sci-fi horror tropes that are used in everything, right? Mm-hmm. Like it is such a fucking legacy for this movie. Androids that are screwing over the team. The shot, my favorite shot in the entire movie, Rich, after she sets the thing to destroy the ship, she comes up a ladder and she puts her fingernails out. She puts her finger, and it's Sigourney Weaver's long, extended fingers, and she puts them on the thing, and it's in a yellow light, and her hand almost looks reptilian. right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's so beautiful and so well done. The sweat pouring off her face, everything is incredible. Think about the sheer volume of movies where we've had a motherly voice reading T-minus 2 seconds until detonation.
Yeah.
This movie had it. This movie had it first.
Yeah. My favorite shot here, my new favorite thing as I was watching it this evening, I really kind of clicked in on the sequence, like right after Ash starts to attack Sigourney Weaver in the the mother room, whatever you want to call it. She comes out, he comes out. We see, like, is that white sweat? What is that coming down from his thing? And then they cut to her, and she's bleeding ever so slightly from the nose.
From her nose.
And but it's red. And that's kind of like the visual language of he's bleeding. He's bleeding white. Something is different about him. And that's how, and then they cut back to him again. And that I was like, wow, that's really a clever way to kind of give that first little hint before, they eventually, whack his head off.
That fight is brutal.
Oh God, yeah.
That fight where he is tossing Sigourney Weaver around until eventually Yaphet Kotto shows up, and then he starts fucking Yaphet Kotto up, and then Yaphet Kotto just gets done with it and hits him with a fire extinguisher, and it creates the mess that becomes Ash. But like everything about like the casting is perfect. It's got a lot going on in its head, right? There are these space truckers. There are people that have been screwed over, gained over the system. First off, what type of people agree to work for a company to go out in the middle of nowhere and dig up ore to bring it back? It's going to take 7, 8, 10, 12 years of your life, right? And so you have all these things working together, and the movie it is a complete, like everything about it is perfection. Like it's now, and again, the interesting thing we're going to get to is that, we haven't talked about the space jockey, the intricacy of the sets, the fact that this picture here, Rich, the filming is so great on this movie that you look at this picture and you go, look at the size of that space jockey compared to these adults. And then you realize that none of these people in the picture are adults.
Nope.
They're kids.
3 kids.
3 kids in spacesuits.
Simple forced perspective. Love it.
Simple forced perspective that will be used later again. And this is a star-making performance. She creates one of the greatest film characters in the history of film. Like she's, if you said to me, give me three lady heroines that you grew up with, it's like Dorothy, Ripley, Princess Leia, in any order. Those, and she creates it. She's amazing. Skerritt's good. Everybody's great. Director Ridley Scott creates tension. The idea that they came up with the concept of the monster's not dead before any of the movies in the 80s did the monster's not dead. I can tell you that as we progress into legacy and franchise viability, first off, it is one of the most singular important IPs in the history of film, right?
Yeah,
it is produced hit movies. It has produced a hit television show. If you're not watching Alien Earth, you're making a mistake. You're making a huge mistake, and you should be watching it. It's produced amazing video games. There's an Aliens video game I used to play on my Commodore 64 where you had to land the ship. Like, it's created an Alien Isolation, which came out a few years back on PlayStation and Xbox, which is a stunningly terrifying game. It has been in every big thing you can think of. And then it produces other movies. Like, the franchise itself is one of the most financially viable franchises ever, and up until the point where they started screwing around with bad ideas like Alien vs. Predator, you know, we've had in the last 2 years for this franchise, Alien Romulus and Alien Earth are two of the most successful versions of the franchise we've ever gotten. So in 79, when this movie comes out, in 86, when Aliens comes out, those two movies are so fucking good, Rich. They inspire filmmakers from other generations who are now getting to play in the sandbox. And I look up and I just go, my God, man, the sandbox is grand. The sandbox is glorious. And, you know, every once in a while the franchise doesn't get made. But I would also say that the viability, the legacy of the movie is not necessarily the franchise itself. The legacy is this Ripley, along with Leia, along with Dorothy, along with all of the great, you know, Betty Davis from All About Eve, right? Ann Baxter, right? You know what I mean? Like all of these great female heroines that people, Ripley is one of the touchstone for our generation, right? We're older. She's one of the absolute touchstone characters. She's one of the greatest film characters ever put on film. And when we get to next week with Aliens, everything that happens in this movie gets multiplied out, taken in a new direction by a new director, and she gives one of the greatest single performances in sci-fi movie history. Right? It's her performance as Ripley, and everybody that shows up in next week's movie. The legacy is so important to female. Like, if we don't have Ripley, we don't have Ready or Not. If we don't have Ripley, we don't have Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Like the legacy is so important to pop culture. You know, the idea of praying at the Ripley altar is a viable one.
Yes, yeah, and we'll get more into that because I think so much of the legacy of this franchise is built upon the fact that Aliens succeeded. If Aliens had tanked, none of this would.
Right. I think the other side of that, right, as we finish up tonight, the other side of it, it's not just that Alien succeeds. Alien succeeds and is completely different in every conceivable way.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And you just you look up and you're like, incredible, absolutely amazing. So we're gonna talk about Aliens next week. That's next week's movie. You got Hicks showing Ripley how to fire a pulse rifle.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna show me everything. If you're gonna show me everything. Where can people find your stuff, Rich Drees?
All my writing can be found at filmbuffonline.com. We've got a Facebook page. You can follow us there where we let you know when new stuff goes up, as well as kind of let you in on some fun stuff like, you know, this date in history, things like that. I can be found on the socials at FilmbuffRich on Twitter, Threads, and Blue Sky. And that's it.
Well, JW Movie Guy on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, IMDb, all those places. JW Colwell, Movie Guy. We also do our show every Monday night, Generation Movie. Next week will be Aliens, like I said, a movie 7 years in the making, which is a long time in 80s sequel history. Main reason why we do it. We also have great shows from Gabe, Symbolistic Cynicism. This episode, talking about The Exorcist Part 3, one of the best episodes Gabe's ever done. And I say that in no uncertain terms. We also have Loud and Nerdy. That's tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, we actually have a very, very big guest coming on. And I got to get the picture because I fucking forgot it. But I'm going to get it. Give me a second. It's been a bad night for me. It's been not a no good, very bad night for JW. Like, just not bright tonight. tomorrow night, Loud and Nerdy, we have an exceptional guest. His name is Robert Dunn, and he has been in a lot of things. He's been on Criminal Minds. He's been in a great horror cult film called Cannibal Comedian, and he's currently gone viral because he is doing a spoof parody of a podcast called The Necessary Conversation, which is a podcast about two kids dealing with their parents who are both MAGA. And he has done it where he is playing all of the characters, the two kids, the two parents, and he is doing it for pop culture. So imagine, if you will, two parents who are in a cult who are fighting with their kids about Rita Repulsa bringing putties to the valley, or Spider-Man not really being a problem, but maybe because he's a communist. Fun stuff. It's amazing. The virals are so good. It's, he did 101 Dalmatians and he cracked me the fuck up because the dad was supporting Cruella. They're her fucking puppies. She can make a coat if he wants. So Robert Dunn's joining us tomorrow night. I'm super excited about that. And then thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you for joining us for Alien. Next week, Aliens, one of the greatest sequels in the history of film. Like, just totally different, amazing. Thank you for joining us. Everybody have a great night. Go see some movies. Got Michael opening this weekend. And most places around the country are going to have Fight Club premiering with a new restoration, a 4K restoration. Ooh. So that's going to be bouncing around theaters this weekend. Thank you for joining us. Have a great night. Thank you for joining me, Rich. Bye.
Always a pleasure.